there is some vintage Mötley Crüe. I don't think I've heard them sound at their best since the Carnivals of Sin tour, the original. I remember seeing that at the SBC Center here in San Antonio with a few co-workers. Really cool, really good show. And I think it was the last time that I saw Mötley Crüe live that they sounded this good together. They sounded tight. Everything just was hitting on all cylinders, plus the backtracks. Yeah. I bring this up because Mötley played a show in Canada over the 4th of July weekend. And the video that came out was, it's something that I have expected because, you know, if you're in the know with Mötley Crüe and in the news, music news, that Vince Neil suffered a stroke. Not just one stroke, multiple strokes while he was sleeping. And he hasn't recovered. That's why they canceled some of the shows like 2 years ago. Matter of fact, I was going to go. I was going to attend to that show in Vegas. So yeah, it didn't go down. And we're all like, hey, what the hell happened? And it finally came out. Vince was having some health issues, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, we all deal with them. And he was going through some adversity in his life. Prior to that, Vince was dealing with a few criticisms from the fan base because Vince had his own side project band. And he would go out when Mötley was done touring. He would go out with his side band, the Vince Neil Band, and go jam. I think that's he loves. He said it before. He loved playing music. And then Vince gained lots of weight, let himself go, was seen drinking a lot of beer and hanging out, running around Vegas, you know, just doing his thing. Nothing wrong with that. You could do whatever you want, right? Well, it caught up to Vince. All that caught up to Vince. And I don't think he ever recovered from that because the Vince Neil that we're seeing right now is pretty bad. I give him all the credit that he deserves because he's still up there doing it, right? That's number one. He's still doing it. He's out there, you know, hitting the pavement and, you know, doing his thing that he's known forever. And it's hard to put that microphone down, right? Even though you hear the chirping, right? You hear the chirping and people are talking and people are saying, man, Vince sounds pretty bad. And I was one of those. When I saw that video, I was the first one who made a comment on social media on one of the music news pages that they have on, I think it was on X. And I said, it's over. Mötley Crüe is done. And I took a lot of flack for that. People were like, oh, you don't know. And I mentioned the word, they sounded slower. The band sounded slower. It's like they came down a step or something. Watch the video. Watch the video from Canada. I think it was the 4th of July weekend. It just passed us. Listen to they said they hadn't played, I think, I don't know what it was. I think it was Take Me to the Top. And it just didn't sound right. It sounded way off. once again, people are going to come after me. Oh, dude, you know what? It's my opinion. It's what I'm seeing. I wanted to comment on it because I think it's important, because a lot of our rock star heroes that we love, I mean, you're seeing it with David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth is a former shell of himself. David Lee Roth is not that David Lee Roth you saw in that Fair Warning video, or even in that Panama video. And now David Lee Roth is playing backtracks, and he's singing along, and he's missing the parts, and it's right there in front of me. This person on another music news site was saying, hey, I want my money back. And that's a fair statement there, because concert tickets are not cheap anymore, right? We all know that. We pay lots of money for concerts to be entertained and to break away from everyday life. And it's something that some of us have been used to for multiple years. I was going through some stuff earlier today, and I ran across a little batch of concert tickets, and I was like, whoa. I'll show them to you guys. I'll do like a show and tell and show you some of these concert stubs that I have. I have stacks of them. I need to do that. I need to do a weekly concert fireside chat with you guys and go back on some of the concerts I've been to. Plenty of crazy vintage concerts. And if you can play along as well. If you've been to the shows, comment on the videos. That's going to come out soon. I'm thinking about that, because there's so many concerts that I'd like to go back and reminisce about, because there was some classics in there. It was Pearl Jam, like 4 or 5 Ozfest in a row, year after year, starting in 2001, I think. Yeah, crazy. And what else? Some vintage Mötley. Yeah, so much, right? So anyway, I don't want to get too far away from what I'm trying to make. My point I'm trying to make about, our rock star heroes getting older and having to step away, and sometimes they can't let it go. They have too much pride and too much ego to be like, you know what? Let so-and-so take over from YouTube or whatever. No way. You don't want to fall into that trap. Yeah, so watching Vince, it was really hard to sit back and not say anything, because I've been a Mötley fan for multiple years. Seen him, I'm going to show my ticket stubs for proof. I've seen them plenty of times. And I want to go back on some of those tours, and we can watch video, break it down, and kind of see, some of the good stuff, because you're not getting any of that now. And there was video of Lionel Richie playing a show and having to sit down because he got dizzy. A week before that, you had Rod Stewart having to get oxygen. Just so many things that been transpiring with the older rockers. But still, one thing that I am not gonna, I'm talking about this aging, rock and roll heroes, and I'm not gonna forget that Ron Wood and Mick Jagger played a secret little show in London today. So those guys are still going strong, but we got Mötley that's kind of trying to get together and get it right to get on the road. You know what? I give them all the credit for stepping up and doing it, leaving their families, because that's one thing that Nikki Sixx talked about, saying, hey, you know what? The hardest part is kind of still leaving your family behind, or I don't know if he brings his family. Who knows? Just being away. Yeah, it's a crazy lifestyle. I saw Tommy Lee on Joe Rogan last week. A good interview. I hadn't seen Tommy do an interview in a while. I know he was floating around. He did Steve-O's podcast a while back, and Theo's and podcasts as well. So he's kind of limited. He doesn't do a lot, and when he does, it's pretty cool to see him in his own element, and talk about some of the cool, crazy stories. Because being in Mötley Crüe, you're gonna have some cool stories, and he always does. So it was cool watching Tommy and Joe Rogan go back and forth. But you know what frustrates me about watching some of these interviews, like with Rogan, is you're going to have Mötley on, Tommy Lee, and there were so many other things they could have done, and I felt that they kind of, I don't know if it was per request to Tommy, like, hey, I'm not going to answer any of these questions, I'm just here for this, or, who knows? But I feel that they held back a lot. So yeah, but kudos to Joe Rogan. He gets all the cool interviews, and I just wish sometimes they would do a little bit more to take us there, because he's the only one getting all these badass guests that are flying into Austin to go see Joe Rogan. And that's amazing. I love that. Kudos to Joe Rogan for bringing that to Texas, because I remember when it was in LA, and you'd have all the big timers come in, and when he made that move to Texas, I'm like, well, is he still going to have that firepower with all the guests? And sure enough, when he first got here, because I was doing a podcast up in Austin, and with Hot Pot Media, and it was like guest after guest after, and it was crazy. So kudos to Joe Rogan and that interview with Tommy Lee, very cool. And Tommy looked, yes, the guy is up there in age, but he didn't look well at all. Tommy looked he looked pale and just, he didn't look right. So yeah, and then you see them perform, and they're trying to get there again because they've been off the road for a while. And then when you hear Vince, you're like, whoa, this doesn't sound good. I know they're coming to Texas in September. I think they're not making it to San Antonio. They're only doing Houston and Dallas, I think. Yeah, we get passed up in San Antonio all the time. That's cool. It is what it is. I wouldn't go pay to see that. I would watch a video online and be like, why? Why do I want to pay for that? And after watching other bands perform live for multiple years, and you see how bands work on their craft, right? They rehearse. It's just like a game, like a team sport. You got to work at your craft in order to take it to the next level, right? And that's what I feel that, Mötley Crüe saying, oh, we're jumping into the rehearsal studios and we're going to be, getting ready for tour. And then you hear the product. It's kind of disappointing, because I can bring up a few bands. Let's start with Metallica, because Metallica's top tier, like it or not. And those guys, they had their problems when they lost their bass player. And then they brought in Jason Newsted. And then that ended. And then they were in shambles. And then it just seemed like it wasn't going to work. They didn't like each other. A lot of things transpired with that band. But they put the right people in place to say, look, this is beyond us. We need some outside help to kind of get us together, or this is going to just end. And you've seen it end with different bands. Queensryche, Skid Row. There's so many bands out there that are so good that are still around, and they cannot get it together. You know, and you end up getting a lead singer with a backup band that he hired hands, and then you get some of the original members with a brand new singer, and vice versa, all the way around with these bands that we pay top dollar to see and pay lots of money for merch. It doesn't match what Metallica is doing and what Mötley Crüe is doing. Okay? And I've thought very highly of Mötley Crüe. And like I said, Carnivals of Sin was the last time I felt, seeing it live, that they performed at the top of their game. It's out there on DVD. If you guys know what a DVD is, or you can stream it on YouTube or whatever. Yeah. It's amazing, right? It's amazing. I mean, think about it. People that love music and that follow this, and you're like, you know what? This guy is buying too much into it. He's bored, and I don't know. I sit back and think about these things because they need to be discussed and talked about, right? And why not? Crank the mic on and let's go. Let's talk about it. Either you like it or you don't. I feel that Mötley Crüe should hang it up. And there's a lot. It's just not the Vince Neil factor. I feel that firepower is not there anymore. Yes, you still have Tommy Lee. Yes, you have Nikki Sixx. Yes, you have Vince Neil. But I've said this before on a podcast a few years ago, and Mick Mars was still in the band. I said, if you lose this major component in your band, it's over. Well, it's over. It's over for that band. They do not sound the same. They do not have that stadium presence. They don't. John 5 is a skilled guitar player. There's a handful of them out there. But this guy does not fit the mold of what Mick Mars left behind. That's why they can't go deep. They talk about Nikki Sixx, was plugging the fact that, hey, look, this time our set list is going to change. We're going to bring out some of the archive stuff. I saw the playlist and I said, wow, I think I saw this a few times already. You know why? Because I pinpointed it. Smoking in the Boys Room is always on the set list. I hate that song. You guys have such a huge catalog and you do that. And then you start implementing recently the Beastie Boys, Fight for Your Right anthem. And I'm like, why? Why? You have your own song called Fight for Your Rights. And it's a killer song. I mean, I'd love to hear it, right? I'd love to hear that and be like, hey, man, you know what? They're really getting into the archives now. Playing Fight for Your Rights. I mean, it's like, okay. I'd like to hear this live. I think I heard it when they did the Theater of Pain. Back in the day, I saw this live. But bring it back now. I mean, can you imagine that? Okay, now you're getting my attention, okay? I could break down that set list and go, heard it plenty of times, seen it, Come on, guys. Come on, Nikki. If you're controlling the playlist, you can do better than that, dude. Come on. Stop playing games, man. What is it? What is it now? I mean, you guys were still doing Smoking in the Boys' Room, when Mick Mars was still in the band. And I hated it. I'm like, I'm ready to leave. But I didn't. There's so much out there. To me, when you listen to John 5 live and you go back and listen to Mick Mars live, two different entities, man. One just sounds so like heavy and just takes over the room. The other one is kind of just along with everybody, playing along with everybody and kind of just having a good time. And just going through the motions. Right? That's what it feels like to me. When I see that, you're going through the motions, man. It's over. I love these guys. Always have. Mötley for life. I'm a huge fan. Seen him multiple times. You can't say I'm a hater. It's just time. I think it's just time. Nikki Sixx. This is directly. You'll probably never see this. But dude, you're a talented musician. So is Tommy Lee. So is John 5. So is Vince Neil. You guys are just walk away, man. Nikki, go work on some of the projects. These Brides of Destruction. Go do 6 a.m. Go do something. That's better. You're better off doing that. Tommy, he's just came out with his stuff. He always making killer music. Tommy's always in the studio working. John 5 has his solo stuff. Vince does his own thing. It doesn't sound the same. It's not the same thing. So why do you keep trying to sell it like it is? Do not ignore the chirping, because people are trying to tell you, hey, man, it's not the same anymore. And it's just not Vince. The band doesn't sound the same anymore. It's done. It's over. So say what you will. Hit me up. Yell at me and tell me I'm a jerk, and I'll accept it. But that's my opinion about Mötley Crüe in 2026. It's over, man. It's over.